Okay, folks, like before, I wanted to record a video so we can use the time in class more for discussion. So let's get started. So today's session is about upgrading marketing operations, the day-to-day marketing operations using advanced attribution. How do you deploy advanced attribution in your organization to support planning, optimization, forecasting, reporting, and just overall be the glue for marketing operations? How do we do that in a way that's consistent and even across the entire organization? Okay, right. That's the topic for class today. Now let's start with something very basic. Let's just to kind of tie out the concepts that we've already learned multiple times. One is for us to set up reporting. The entire organization, marketing organization, may be used to daily reporting, at least in many cases, in some cases, real-time reporting, okay? And a lot of the testing that we do is episodic. If you take Facebook lift testing or geo testing or any kind of testing we do is episodic in nature, okay? Now, even if you take marketing mix models are not like a continuous stream of outputs, okay? You kind of refresh the models and you simulate them to get new outputs. No, at best case once a month. Typically, it's once a quarter when you actually get new outputs from a media mix model. So you may not have a new media mix modeling output, even if you have an existing contract with a media mix modeling vendor for more than once a quarter. Okay, so what you need is you need to be able to take the combination of what you get from platform reporting or last touch reporting from platforms or Google Analytics, combine it with these advanced attribution multipliers we get from lift studies or MMM, and then report them on a regular daily cadence. Okay, how do we do that? So on the bottom you have a sort of a sample report from, let's call it Facebook, right? Let's say you go to Facebook, you pull platform last click reporting from Facebook, 1 day click, 1 day view, for example, and it's typically it's daily, but you can pull it on an hourly basis as well if you wanted to. Therefore, the data can be thought of as a real-time stream of data, right? In the case of Facebook, AdWords, all the more mature platforms, right? And many other platforms may be still daily, okay? So you can kind of think of that as a real-time or a daily stream of data from the platforms. And then you run these studies. It could be a diversity of studies. You can start with simply a benchmark that you apply, and then you can run a geo test at some point. You can run a Facebook lift test much more frequently. And you can translate all of those into multipliers. And the important concept here is these multipliers are time bounded. Okay, you can apply a multiplier for a range. Let's say, for example, in this first case, 75% benchmark, we applied it for a period of time until we got a geo test. Once we got the geo test, we calibrated down to 40%, right? Again, we ran another test for another season, got an 83% multiplier. So what we can do as we run these tests is calibrate multipliers on a seasonal basis and use those multipliers then to now report Facebook in this particular case on a real-time or a daily basis, right? So basically you take the baseline attribution conversions, baseline attributed conversions coming from Facebook, multiply it with the multiplier number we got from the diversity of tests, and then report the Facebook program in incremental or incremental terms using the combination of the two. Again, the formula is very simple. Advanced attribution conversions, AA conversions equal to multiplier times SA conversions or platform conversions. Very simple, okay? Now, this is the basic concept. The concept is fairly straightforward and simple. Now, if you can build a reporting system that encapsulates this triad, right, for every channel. So you think of this as a triad, the platform reporting, the multiplier, and the combo gives you the advanced attributed conversions or revenue. That triad, now if you calculate or compute it for every channel, Facebook, AdWords, podcast, TV, and whatnot, now you can now combine them to create cross-channel reporting. Okay, that's the basic idea. Okay, now, now let's say, for example, you've done that. Now you've gone in and you've actually calculated, let's start here. It's calculated the triad for every channel. Now you combine them and you bring together a very simple, if you remember the sensitivity analysis deck that we looked at, it was a complex exercise, right? It had a lot of data here. So just, if you remember the sensitivity analysis template we had, we combined multiple base attribution numbers, multiple advanced attribution numbers to kind of finally come to a best estimate. Now just pull the best estimate into its own channel dashboard so that now all that sausage making can go in behind the scenes, and stakeholders across the board, be it executive stakeholders or team members or vendors, can all now access a very simple view of channel performance in an incremental basis that kind of lays out the important metrics. Okay, so here the most important things is you want to kind of in the left you can see you capture the funnel stage. Okay, you can call it funnel stage, you can call it prospecting, retention. I mean, you can map the lingo and the language to what you might use internally, but almost always you want to capture the notion of a funnel in one of the dimensions. Okay, so here I have called it high funnel, mid funnel, low funnel channels. And then you have the actual channel, like Facebook prospecting and branded search and Facebook retargeting and whatnot. So now it's kind of clear what media it is, where it plays in the funnel, and how much we're spending on those channels. Okay, right next to it, you want to break out two sections. One is the base attribution section. As if you remember in the sensitivity analysis, we went through each channel and picked the base attribution base attribution source that is the best source for it. Here you can see that we, in some cases, we picked the platform as being the best base attribution source. In some cases, we picked the post-purchase survey plus an internal attribution metric as a source, and in some cases it could be Google Analytics. Right? You pick the source for base attribution that gives you the most tracking coverage and last click attribution entropy. Right? You want to just basically be able to see if the targeting worked. Whether it's causal or not is the role of the advanced attribution, but whether it's actually able to even capture tracking signal, attribution tracking signal is kind of what base attribution's job is. And we're picking a source based on what we think is the best. And that's what you report over here. You report the base attribution conversions and the base attribution CPA. And many cases, why this is a good choice is that many times it's real time or daily data. So you can rely on it for a regular reporting. So that's always going to be available on a daily basis. And so it can support the operating cadence of the organization, right? If somebody wants to pull a daily report or somebody wants to pull today morning's visits and conversions, right? They can actually do that and rely on Google Analytics or Facebook Ads Manager, or Google AdWords for that kind of reporting. And it'll always be available and used by millions of advertisers worldwide, right? So that's what we call base attribution. The important thing that you are doing is you're selecting the right base attribution source for every channel. Okay, that's what we did as part of the sensitivity analysis exercise, and we're going to use that from a reporting perspective to then report the right base attribution source for every channel. Okay, that's number one. Number two, if you remember, we went in and picked different advanced attribution systems for these. Now, as I was alluding here, what we're going to do is we're going to essentially take all the advanced attribution and then translate them into multipliers and save the multipliers to a table somewhere. And now we calculate advanced attributed conversions as multiplier times platform conversions, or multiplier times base attribution conversions, right? So now that is what you report over here, right? Now it's side by side. Now, why this is important is that many of the media buyers and marketers are used to looking at base attribution numbers, right? That's where they live. That's where that's the currency that they've been using to operate the channel, buy media, make optimizations, and make budgeting decisions. Now, you want to leave it right there so they always have a reference point that they're familiar with and that they can anchor onto while they understand advanced attribution. Okay. Now, right next to it, you put advanced attribution. Now you can see what the advanced attribution conversions are compared to the base attribution, and what the advanced attribution CPA is compared to the base attribution CPA, right? Now you can say, conversion CPA, revenue ROAS, and the concept is the same, but fundamentally you want to put them side by side, and right next to it, you want to line up the contribution metric. What is the percentage contribution of a particular channel to the total conversions that you observed for that time period, right? In this particular case, Q1, right? So, right. So that's kind of an important concept, to line up base attribution and advanced attribution right next to each other, and put the volume metric, which is conversions or revenue, right next to the ROI metric, which is CPA or ROAS. It could be more advanced metrics like, profit over dollar or margin over dollar or whatever it is, right? Now you put them together. Now this is essentially the cheat sheet, or the basic dashboard that most organizations will want to look at on a regular basis, right? Now you can pivot this a couple of different ways. This is for a period. You can also look at it on a month by month basis, quarter by quarter basis. So different ways to pivot this, but this fundamental data set is what most of the people would love to look at. Okay, so now you've gotten this. The next stage is to roll all this up to a portfolio dashboard, right? Now this is on a channel by channel basis. What is the impact? The best estimate of impact created by that particular channel is what we're reporting here. Now you roll it up across all channels, and typically what will happen is that let's just start with new customers, for example. This is what we've been spending a lot of time on in class. In new customers, what was the total spend across the entire portfolio, across all the new channel acquisition spend, a new customer acquisition spend, right? So it could be Facebook prospecting, could be non-branded keywords, could be TV. All the media that was deployed to drive new customer acquisition is counted over here. The total observed new customer orders, right? This is basically what you recorded in Shopify or in your backend CRM system is reported here. What is the CAC that you observed? CAC is a number that everybody understands, customer acquisition cost, which is total number of total customer acquisition spend divided by total new customers acquired. It represents CAC. So this is a number that your CFO, your board, your CEO, everybody kind of has intimate knowledge of, and they're watching this number like a hawk. Now, what you want to do is you want to put right next to it the incremental CAC, or the advanced attribution CAC, that was calculated by going through this exercise we just went through, right? We now looked at all this channels that you spend money on, and this is the incremental customer acquisition cost that is driven by media, right? Now that you want to put right over here and represent what is now called the baseline, which is out of the 97,000 conversions that was observed, or new customers that was acquired by the business in Q1, 45,000 was acquired because of media. That was the $51 million drove 45,707 new customers. And the rest of it, 47%, which is the rest, which is 97,000 minus 45,000, is what we call the baseline. Okay, the baseline is the portion of new customers just walking in the door that's not directly attributable to the media, right? Now, there's a lot you can spend a lot of time talking about. How is it possible? Is it word of mouth? Is it like a virality of the business as you bring new customers, they go spread the word, and there's contagion about the brand, and that drives more new business? Or if it's the economy, or if it's the category growth, or whatever it is, the difference in how the category grows and the competitors enter and exit the market, all of those contribute to the baseline. And if you want to break down the baseline further, typically MMM's media mix modeling is the best approach for breaking it up. But that is the baseline. What is the investment you put into market, and what is the direct attributable impact of that media to driving new customers, is now 40, this number, and this number represents the baseline that is not attributable to media. Okay, this is an important representation. Now everybody gets to see the performance of media and what is walking in the door without media's direct impact, affecting the business, right? Now, therefore, people can see these two numbers side by side. What is the CAC, and what we have called the advanced attribution CAC side by side? And it's an important concept, because once they understand that there is a difference, it's two sides of the same coin, and because of the baseline that the business has. Now, if you wanted to grow the business, right? And they can say, well, we can afford a CAC of about, $800. Now, all of a sudden, if you have an $800 CAC that you can manage to, your advanced attribution CAC, or the incremental CPA for channels, is much higher, right? Now you can afford maybe a $1,500, $1,600, $1,700 CPA, advanced attribution CPA for the channels. And therefore, you create headroom from an ROI perspective for growing the channels and growing the business, allows you to really invest media and make the data-driven case, the economic case, to be able to use media to grow the business. And understand what that means to the unit economics for the business as a whole, right? It connects those 2 points together, and therefore it's an important concept for us to catch on to. Okay, all right. Then, okay, now this is for new customer orders. Similarly, if we did the sensitivity analysis exercise for existing customers' orders, or which is retained customer orders, or as Ellen was talking about, reactivated customers, which is customers who have lapsed in the customer file, and you deployed media to win them back. And this is kind of a typical way reporting matures over a period of time in the organization. You start with just reporting new customers and reporting new customers and existing customers, and then reporting a lapsed customer, kind of like an evolution of how you kind of report the business in more mature ways as you grow. But this framework of reporting, portfolio reporting by conversion type being new customers, existing customer orders, and reactivated customer orders, allows you to represent the business with the same framework of observed and advanced attributed conversions of revenue. Allows everybody to anchor around what is the baseline for the business and what is the ROI headroom on each one of these segments to grow the business, and deploy media or other techniques to grow the business. Okay. So we've just covered, going back here, essentially, how do you report customers? How do you report channels in the context of advanced attribution? And how do you report the entire portfolio in a way that represents advanced attribution and the true impact of media on the business, right? So you can now anchor the observed metrics and the advanced attributed metrics side by side, so people can have a way to compare two sides of the same coin, and they're both available for them to see, in one view. Okay, it's kind of important for us to anchor that. All right, now having this, imagine that this is something that you put in place. And it could be something you report in Google Sheets. It could be something you report in Tableau, depending on how mature the business is. But this is a kind of reporting you want to have available, right? And this is, of course, one view of this data. You can also have a longitudinal view of the data as well on a month-by-month, quarter-by-quarter basis as well for both the portfolio view and the channel-specific view, right? And very, very often you have both in organizations. Okay, now you're now reporting everything in a way that can be understood in an attributed sense. Okay, more sophisticated brands, what they'll do is they'll overlay a forecast on top of this, right? The forecast typically at this level, which is what is my forecast for the business, forecast for new customers, existing customer orders, and reactivated customer orders, and they may reconcile. Okay, for the past they'll just report the observed, and then for the future they'll report the forecast, and sometimes they'll also report the difference between forecast and observed as well. And you can keep layering those things on between forecast versus what was actuals. If as a way to kind of now get closer and closer to the P&L that CFO would like to see. Okay, but start somewhere in a way that is accessible for your organization. Okay, now now that you've done this, now that we've taken the multipliers, we've combined the multipliers with the base attribution to provide advanced attribution reporting, and then reported all of that. Now you kind of ladder this to optimizing the channels. Many of the channels, many of the biddable channels like Facebook and AdWords and programmatic channels and OTT, for example, you optimize to a target ROI, like a target CPA or target ROAS. And the big confusion is, how do you translate an advanced attribution CPA or a ROAS to a platform CPA or ROAS, right? How do you translate that? so that you can now set those targets and manage to those targets, right? Now, I just want you to go back to how Ali walked us through the optimization process. How do you use advanced attribution and base attribution CPAs, and how do you optimize, increase spend, and watch for the CPAs and wait until they converge to the CPAs you want. I want you to go back to that class. But how do you know what the right target CPA is from a platform perspective? Now, here is how you do it. You have a multiplier that the multiplier is you apply the multipliers, right? But you can also just, take a blended multiplier number here over whatever period of time, Q1 or January or last week or whatever it is. And then you have a multiplier number here based on what you report as advanced attribution conversions and base attribution conversions. You can simply multiply the CPA by the advanced attribution CPA by the multiplier to get a target CPA for the platform, right? It's a very simple process. And then now you end up being able to understand what CPAs you're targeting in platform. So, for example, in Facebook, you are seeing a $1,500 CPA, right? Now, what you want to, $1,400 CPA. What you want to target is a 786 CPA. If you want to target a $1,000 CPA here overall, you basically want to pull down spend. So what you're really trying to do is, as you're pulling down spend on Facebook, you're trying to get it to a 786 CPA from a 1433 CPA, right? That's kind of the way it goes. So let's take another example here. Let's see here, for example, cable TV. Cable TV is a bad example. Let's see if we have something in Google PMax is also reducing spend. Any place with increasing spend. Yeah, here maybe Google branded search, maybe, right? I mean, it's a bad example again, because you're probably going to buy as much branded search as you can buy. Retargeting may be a good example, right? Maybe there is some room to spend more on retargeting in this particular case, even though this is not how I would manage it. But imagine this was, if you had similar numbers for Facebook prospecting or some other kind of mid-funnel channel, it was coming in at $166 last click CPA, and the advanced attribution CPA is $800, but your target is $1,000. There's still some ROI room, right? You want to increase spend. So how do you increase spend? You increase spend. What CPA are you targeting? You're targeting a $208 CPA. So you want to increase spend and watch it, the CPAs go up and hit the $208 CPA, and that's where you stop the spending, because that's when you hit $1,000 incremental or an advanced attribution CPA, right? So this allows you to set platform CPA targets using the multipliers as your guideline to set them. Okay, there's some advanced topics here about linear assumptions and stuff like that. If anybody's interested in that, we can cover that offline or in the discussion in class. Okay, all right. We went from taking multipliers, combining them with base attribution numbers, reporting advanced attribution numbers, the reporting formats for channel and portfolio, and then how do you set platform CPA ROAS targets here. Okay, now once you have this infrastructure in place and this approach in place, now the next step is to educate the stakeholders around this process. Okay, these are new concepts for many teams, and therefore they're not going to come in with the familiarity and just embrace the new methodology. So you want to actually have proactive education and evangelize the approach you're taking. So number one, educate the senior team on the baseline concept. They've all been educated. The entire industry has been educated on a CAC, which is just a flat CAC of total customers by total acquisition spend. But there's the notion of baseline is new. When you bring the notion of baseline into the conversation, all of a sudden you have the opportunity to represent a CAC and an advanced attribution CAC, right? And then now you can talk about how this is really what the media is delivering for you, and these two things going to go up and down together, and what is the CAC that you can afford for the business, and therefore what is the advanced attribution CAC that you can go up to, and therefore spend up to that advanced attribution CAC and grow the business accordingly, right? So you can now have that conversation in a way that's meaningful for that business. Okay, number one. Opportunity analysis. Okay, we talked about how, given the channel reporting, now you can see which channels are over the target CPA line, under the target CPA line, and if you apply meaningful some assumed diminishing returns to the planning. Now you can kind of say, well, here is the chance for us to grow the business. If we can spend another 20% more dollars against the same media assets we have, media investment vehicles we have, and grow the business by another 15% top line. Do we want that? Are we willing to afford that? Right? Those are kind of questions that we can now have. You haven't done anything. You've just said, on paper, it looks like we have a chance to grow the business by another 15% by changing the media mix this way or investing more in these channels in this way. Would that be in opportunity that we want to avail? Right now, you're educating the senior team on how you're assessing opportunities in market and how you can test into those opportunities, test and learn if those opportunities are real. Now you're buying. You're securing buy-in for more testing and testing as an experimentation, as a culture to help you make better decisions, right? It's kind of how the process and the approach to which allows you to have a conversation with executives. Planning and reporting timeframes. When you do this, you also want to set clean timeframes on how often you're going to optimize, how often you're going to plan and report media performance. Typically, a lot of organizations are on a weekly cadence. If you're a smaller organization, you're reporting weekly. If you're a slightly bigger organization, reporting monthly, all your channels. And then you're planning either a monthly or quarterly based on what the size of your budgets and your team and the sophistication of what you're trying to do, right? So you want to set that forecasting, planning, reporting cadence with all the teams ahead of time so they know what to expect when it's coming, what you're reporting, give them all the samples. So now they're expecting to receive a certain format, and allows you to kind of now have conversations about the strategy that is getting unlocked through the approach, the data-driven marketing approach you're taking, and what kind of opportunities it's throwing up because of the way you're looking at the problem, right? Unlock opportunities for you. Now, on the team side, right? Really, the teams really struggle to process advanced attribution CPAs to platform CPAs. Now, that process you need to go through for every channel and make it not a theoretical exercise, but an actual tangible exercise on channel A. This was your target before, this is your new target now because of these multipliers, right? Now, having them do that exercise on a regular basis helps them understand how to set targets in platforms for their channels and how to manage them on an ongoing basis, right? Again, going back to Ali's optimization exercise, right? And then same thing. How often are you reporting your channels? How often you're planning? How often you're optimizing? These are all topics that will be very important for your teams to secure, so that they can now operate with the understanding of how these things work. Okay. All right. Finally, the last slide here is about decision making under uncertainty. Okay. Now, as you kind of like you picked up in class, is that all of measurement is about helping you make better decisions. There is no absolute measurement. Give me 1 second. There is no absolute measurement. All the measurement, we're trying to understand human behavior, right? How do humans react to advertising? So it is really a probabilistic system at its core, right? No, you cannot really tell it how one human being reacted to advertising. It's not possible because we're too complex as a system for us to understand how one person reacted to an Apple ad or a Google ad or a furniture ad or whatever, right? It's not possible, but you can get pretty good assessments as a population, right? So it's basically at its foundation a statistical, probabilistic system as opposed to a deterministic system, right? So something for us to just calibrate to. Therefore, there's always bounds of uncertainty around every insight that we look at, be it advanced attribution CPA, or be it even the last click CPA that we're so used to. Actually, it has uncertainty bounds around it. We just are never used to looking at it, right? Therefore, when you look at advanced attribution metrics, you may have multiple metrics and you may not have as much confidence about the reach you're getting. And you may have some confidence, not perfect confidence, and so on and so forth. So it's important for us to understand that the confidence and the optimal decision can be calibrated, can be thought of as like a trade-off, right? You may say that, hey, if I am really confident on the scale test that I just ran, and the CPA for Facebook at scale, if I scale it another 100%, is only $800. Okay, so my target's $1,000 CPA. It's coming in at 800, and I'm really confident, so I should double the spend, right? If you're very confident, great, you can double the spend. Let's say, for example, you did it, and you came back with, well, I'm not so confident about the read. The read is still, there's a lot of uncertainty about it. It's not clear. I got a weak read from it, and it could be as much as $1,300. But the most confident read I have is around $850, right? But there are some alternate reads that I have that are much higher. As an example, let's say you take a geo read, you take multiple reads using multiple models, and you end up with a variety of sort of a range of reads. Some of those reads are pretty far away from where you want to be. Then you're not quite sure if it's going to end up there. Therefore, what you can do is you can take you can scale the decision halfway. You can test into the decision. Like, for example, a lot of clients, what they do when they do a geo test and they learn that there is scale potential, but they're not quite sure about it. You can scale into 1/3 of the country, 1/2 of the country, and see how the results pan out at scale. You took 5 markets, you tested it, and you found that it could potentially have a lot of scale potential at an ROI, at a CPA ROAS that's very affordable. It's great, but you're not quite sure if it's going to pan out at scale. Great, you don't have to go national right away. You can go towards national. You can take 1/3 of the country scale maybe at the 2x range that you tested in, and see how it pans out for 1/3 of the country. Now you have more sample, more confidence. Now you can take the decision with more confidence, whatever you do next, right? So essentially the idea is that you can design halfway house decisions that you can take, that you can make when you don't have full confidence. So that's the idea, which is that it's not 1 or 0. You can calibrate your decision making. You can take a half a step forward as opposed to a full step, and allows you to still make decisions, move towards the optimal point in your portfolio, but you can do it in a way that's more risk averse as opposed to having to make the full decision. Okay. All right, that's the last slide. I want to pause right there. We will use this as a resource in class, and we'll use the time for discussion. Okay, appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in class.